Approximately 1 in every 59 children are born with autism. Albert Einstein.
Dr. Einstein had no speech until age 3. Steve Jobs, he was a loner. He brought snakes to school.
Leonardo da Vinci. This man was far advanced on the autism spectrum.
I'm not naughty. I'm autistic. And I just get too much information.
How much do you know about Takiwātanga? Why create a Maori word for autism? Why even bother and care about autism? This is Lloyd I am, and you're listening to Takiwātanga Love Not Cure, exploring autism one strength at a time. Hi everyone, thank you for listening. This is our first episode for this podcast. I know there are a lot of questions we want clarity on about autism. There are a lot of worries and anxieties with parents and carers. With this podcast, we might be able to learn and explore strategies and then apply those strategies and see what works for us. Just so you know, I'm not an expert on this topic, nor trying to be one. I'm just like any other parent on this journey, trying to learn and understand about the spectrum. And maybe, just maybe, this show can be a medium to help someone who needs help and who wants to know or learn about the autism spectrum. This podcast is not just about autism awareness, but rather it's also about sharing ideas and strategies and applying them to see if they will work. If a strategy works for you, then that's amazing. If not, let's move on to the next strategy and try that and see if that will work. And if that still doesn't work for you, let's move on to the next until we find what's best for us. Let's focus more on the strengths rather than fixing the weaknesses. Let's see things positively, because in every situation and in every condition, there will always be something that we can get out of that instance. And then that will later on can help us become stronger and a better person so we can support our family even better. Thank you for tuning in. We have lots of things to cover, and I hope we can all work together and help each other out so we can enjoy this journey of autism. In the end, if we can help an autistic person get the life skills they needed to live a happy life, then we are all successful, no matter how small or big that help is. So before we deep dive in this topic, please make sure to share this podcast to your family and friends so others who might need this information or all the information that we'll be sharing can find us easily. I would like to tell you a little bit about my background and why I'm doing this. For the second time around, I have decided to put this show up again and to continue my autism journey. I shut down the first podcast I set up more than a year ago and stopped publishing content. Or there were challenges that I have experienced back then, and I lost track of maintaining the podcast. Plus, I had this imposter syndrome in me as well, where I kept asking myself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? And why I should continue with it. I'm not even an expert about autism, let alone my background is not even in the medical field. And then there was a time as well, I got overwhelmed and just stopped publishing content about autism. I had other channels as well. Those channels suffered the same thing, the same fate, and I also shut them down. So after more than a year, I think about the podcast, and every day I question myself after shutting it down why I stopped publishing about autism. And after winning my battle with myself, I'm now here in this first episode again and looking forward to winning more. I have 3 kids, and one of them, who's my youngest son, was assessed with autism. This is one of the reasons why I'm putting back this podcast again. I want to explore, learn, and apply those strategies or any strategies that I will come across. And I believe the more I can publish around autism will perhaps help me to understand autism more. I have to say it's super challenging as parents, and also there are a lot of ideas and strategies available out there. And for most of the time, we get overwhelmed. And in the end, we miss out on those strategies, or we miss out on applying those strategies. We get frustrated, if I may say so. I'm super keen to have my wife join in the future discussions, and soon we will do that. We'll find some time for that. As of this point, she's very busy as well, looking after the kids, especially the youngest. Again, I would like to emphasize that I am not an expert on this topic. I just want to share any insights or any strategies that I will learn as I progress with this autism podcast. I always believe that you don't need to be an expert to be able to share information that can or may help others. Autism is not a one-size-fits-all, so every strategy worth sharing, we will do that in this podcast. And I hope this podcast can be one of your sources in getting those strategies. Okay, so enough about me, and we'll get more opportunities about that and in the future as we progress with this show. So let's talk more about Takiwātanga, its origins, meaning, and why you should care. Takiwātanga is the Maori word for autism. It means his or her own time and space. The word was coined by Kerry Opai during the time he was working with the glossary Te Reo Hapai, or the language of enrichment. The glossary was created because, as we all are very much aware, a lot of the clinical terms used like ASD or autism spectrum disorder focuses more on the negative side rather than the positive, i.e. disorder, which means no order. This is limiting the person's belief and abilities that they can contribute to society while enjoying life. Often we want this person or with autism to live a normal life in a society, but what's normal? How do you define normal? Does it mean that if it's something that doesn't conform with our own standards, it's no longer termed as normal? And talking about standards, whose standards are we talking about here? So why can't we just focus on being a human being to others? Rather than focusing on the negative, let's focus more on the positive side, and maybe that's what really means by the word normal. Anyway, before I go further away from our main agenda for today, let's pause from there and let's go back to the term Takiwātanga. Takiwātanga for me is by far the best definition ever created for autism. Thanks to Kerry for coming up with that amazing term, by the way. And by the looks of it, would you rather use the term autism spectrum disorder or Takiwātanga? I checked Google, and one source says disorder is a problem or illness which affects someone's mind or body. Another source defines it as an abnormal physical or mental condition, while others says it's a lack of order. So when you define autism as a disorder, you're saying that it's a problem or an illness. I know there are a lot of challenges around it, but for me, illness is such a heavy word to use for this. It sounded like there's an illness that I needed to cure. Autism is, as I understood it, it's not something that you can cure. Autism has something to do with how the brain is wired. I read that a person who has an autism usually has more neurons than a neurotypical person. That's why most autistic people have bigger brains. So does this mean that if we are to cure autism, does it mean we will need to reduce the size of their brain or brains so we can reduce their neurons and they become normal? So I don't want to go back to that topic again on what's normal, On the other hand, when we look at Takiwātanga, the definition is very positive and doesn't say anything about the person being a problem or an illness. It's just simply defined as his or her own time and space. By definition, this is exactly how autism should be defined. There should be no labeling of a person being a problem or having an illness that needs to be cured. Yes, I agree that there is help needed. So we can always help people regardless and not to put some negative label over it before we can help them, right? So what I like about the term Takiwātanga as well is that it's not judgmental and doesn't limit one person in doing things. They just have their own time and space. That's it. Just like plants, Not all plants are the same. They don't grow on the same or at the same pace. Also, they do not have the same height or even leaf colors. They too have their own differences, just like human beings. They use their own unique characteristics to empower themselves, which is amazing, right? We are all different. We have different skills and strengths. That's what differentiates us among other human beings as well. Otherwise, we are all just going to be like robots. We all look the same, program the same, do the same thing, and there's no differentiation and looks boring. So that's what I like about Takiwātanga. We all have our own time and space, regardless if it's success, it's happiness, if it's about being able to learn new skills, being able to spend time with family. There's appropriate time and space for that. Takiwātanga doesn't define a person as a disorder or as a defect. So how about you? How did you like about, or what did you like about the term Takiwātanga? For our next episode, we will be sharing the interview that I had with Kerry Opay about Takiwātanga and Tereo Hapay. I had this podcast before where I published that interview. So I will just be republishing it so I can make it available as well for everyone. For me, I think that will be an amazing second episode. If you have any questions or you have any topic in mind, do let us know, and we'll find a way to publish them as part of this podcast. Every tangata fight Takiwātanga or person with autism is different. If you fail with one strategy, don't stop. Keep moving forward. Always remember that for every failure you encounter is one step closer to your success. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, me muto te whakawa haere. Let's stop judging others. Me mahi tahi tato. Let's all work together. Kia maya, kia kaha, be brave and be strong.